So many Aussies love the VGS and VAS 70/30 portfolio, and it makes sense. 2 ETFs, low fees, and you are invested across 1,500 companies globally. Simple. But what if you could do something very similar with just a single ETF? Introducing VDHG, Vanguard's Diversified High Growth Index ETF. An all-in-one diversified ETF containing Australian shares, international shares, emerging market shares, global small companies, and bonds. All inside a single ticker, with Vanguard managing the allocation for you. But don't rush off and sell VAS and VGS just yet, because when you actually pull these two portfolios apart, the differences go much deeper than fees or VDHG's 10% bond allocation. We're talking about hidden currency exposure, US concentration most investors don't realize they have, and how the tax treatment of each portfolio could quietly cost you money over time. All of that changes the decision significantly, but before we start the comparison, what are these two portfolios actually made of? In the VGS VAS portfolio, 70% goes into VGS, Vanguard's International Shares ETF. It holds more than 1,200 large and mid-sized companies across developed markets outside Australia, including names such as Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. The other 30% goes into VAS, which holds roughly 300 of the largest companies on the ASX, including Commonwealth Bank, BHP, Westpac, and Wesfarmers. Together, you get a simple, low-cost portfolio with exposure to roughly 1,500 companies across Australia and the major developed economies. But you do not get emerging markets such as China, India, or Brazil. You do not get international small companies or bonds, and all of the international portion remains exposed to foreign currency movements. VDHG is built differently. It spreads your money across 6 separate asset categories. Its target allocation is roughly 36% Australian shares, 5% emerging markets, 16% currency hedged international shares, 26.5% unhedged international shares, 6.5% international small companies, and 10% Australian and global bonds. So VGS and VAS is 100% shares, while VDHG is approximately 90% shares and 10% bonds. These are the most visible differences, but not the most important ones. Part 2, where your money really ends up. VGS sounds evenly spread around the world. It is internationally diversified and has some exposure to Japan, the UK, Canada, and others, but it weights companies according to their market value. And because the US share market is so large, approximately 73% of VGS is currently invested in American companies. When VGS makes up 70% of your total portfolio, that leaves roughly 51.6% of everything you own in US shares. That is not automatically a problem. The US is home to some of the world's most profitable and innovative businesses. But it is also a concentration you should understand. The top 10 companies in VGS make up around 29.3% of that ETF. Inside the full 70/30 portfolio, those same 10 companies represent roughly 20.5% of your money. So despite owning around 1,500 companies, around 1/5 of the portfolio sits in just 10 global giants. VDHG reduces that concentration by spreading more money across Australia, emerging markets, smaller companies, and bonds. Its overall US exposure is closer to 35 to 36%. But VDHG makes a larger bet somewhere else. Australia. The 70/30 portfolio holds 30% in Australian shares in the VAS portion, while VDHG holds roughly 36%. Both are heavily overweight Australia compared to its roughly 2% share of the global market. This is known as home bias. There can be some good reasons for that. Franking credits, dividend income, and holding assets in the same currency you spend. But the Australian market has its own concentration problem. Almost 60% of VAS sits in financials and materials, mainly banks and mining companies, and its top 10 holdings make up about 47.6% of the ETF. VGS and VAS actually complement each other reasonably well. VAS adds banks, miners, and income-focused companies, while VGS adds technology, healthcare, and global consumer businesses. But the balance is different. VGS and VAS gives you more US mega caps. VDHG gives you more Australian banks and miners, along with smaller companies, emerging markets, and bonds. There is no clear winner here. It genuinely depends on how much Australian exposure you already carry through your superannuation, your employment income, and any property you own. A lot of people, when they add all of that up, are already far more exposed to Australia than they realize. And country exposure is only part of the story, because owning overseas shares also means owning foreign currencies. Part 3, the currency difference most people miss. VGS does not hedge its overseas exposures back into Australian dollars. That means its return is influenced by two things: how the companies perform and how the Australian dollar moves against currencies such as the US dollar, euro, and pound. Here is a simple way to think about it. Say US company's share price does not move at all, but the Australian dollar falls 10% against the US dollar. Your investment goes up in value in Australian dollar terms, even though nothing actually changed for that business. The opposite works exactly the same way. The Australian dollar rises, your overseas investment loses value in Australian dollar terms, even if the company is performing perfectly well. Because VGS represents 70% of the two-fund portfolio, approximately 70% of the entire portfolio is exposed to foreign currency movements. VDHG's unhedged foreign exposure is around 38%. That is because part of its international share allocation is currency hedged, as are its international bonds. If the Australian dollar weakens, the VGS and VAS portfolio generally receives a larger boost. If the Australian dollar strengthens, it feels more of a drag. VDHG sits closer to the middle. This is a much larger structural difference than the small gap in management fees. It also changes how we should interpret their historical returns. When VGS and VAS outperforms, it's worth asking, did its companies perform better, or did currency movements help as well? To answer that properly, we need to look at what happened across several different market environments. Part 4, what the performance numbers really show. Now, using Vanguard's data to the end of May 2026, VDHG actually won over the most recent 12 months. VDHG returned 13.8% compared to approximately 12% for the 70/30 VGS and VAS portfolio. But over longer periods, the result changes. Over 3 years, VGS and VAS returned approximately 15.8% compared to 14.3% for VDHG. Over 5 years, VGS and VAS returned approximately 12.1% per year compared with 9.4% for VDHG. With distributions reinvested and the VGS VAS portfolio rebalanced to 70/30 at the beginning of each calendar year, $10,000 would have grown over these 5 years to approximately $17,716 versus $15,656 in VDHG. That's a difference of approximately $2,000. For a longer comparison, starting at the end of 2017, shortly after VDHG launched, and rebalancing VGS and VAS to 70/30 at the beginning of each calendar year, $10,000 would have grown to approximately $25,520 by the end of May 2026. VDHG would have reached approximately $21,850. So VGS and VAS has clearly delivered the stronger, longer-term result over the available history. But it did not win mainly because its fees were lower. The return gap is far too large for fees to explain that. It won because this particular period strongly favored the risk it takes. Developed markets, US shares, large technology companies, and unhedged foreign currency exposure. Meanwhile, emerging markets and smaller companies lagged mega caps, and bonds experienced an unusually difficult period. VDHG held more of those weaker performing assets by design. The role of bonds is especially revealing. In 2022, inflation surged and interest rates rose quickly. Both share and bond prices fell, and VDHG's defensive allocation did not prevent a loss. The 70/30 VGS VAS portfolio fell approximately 9.3%, while VDHG fell approximately 9.7%. In 2021, the VGS VAS portfolio also won because of the huge rebound in US growth stocks. But in 2020, the 70/30 VGS VAS portfolio returned approximately 4.6% for the calendar year, while VDHG returned approximately 5.5%. In that environment, VDHG's broader diversification helped. Bonds are not guaranteed to protect you every time shares fall, particularly when inflation and interest rates are rising. And with only 10% in bonds, VDHG can still suffer large losses in a serious downturn. The past therefore tells us how each structure behaved, not which one is guaranteed to win next. If US megacaps and weak Australian dollar continue to dominate, VGS and VAS may keep leading. If market leadership broadens, the Australian dollar rises, or bonds become more useful again, the gap could narrow or reverse. VDHG's win over the last 12 months is a simple example of that. Returns attract most of the attention, but the day-to-day experience of owning these portfolios is also different. Stuff like taxes, which we'll cover in the next section. But before that, just a quick mention. One of the reasons I started the ETFadviser newsletter is because a lot of the biggest investment themes are not really captured by a simple Australian shares ETF like VAS. Things like global technology, artificial intelligence, healthcare innovation, and other themes often sit mostly outside the Australian market. So in the newsletter, I look across more than 490 ASX-listed ETFs to find where those opportunities are and how they may fit into your portfolio. The model portfolio has been running since June 2025. It's up 11.06% compared to the ASX at only 8.01%. And there is a 4-week free trial plus a 20% discount for yearly subscribers. The link is in the description. Part 5. fees, tax, and control. The weighted management fee of VGS VAS 70/30 portfolio is approximately 0.15% per year. VDHG charges 0.27%. On $100,000, that is roughly $147 per year for VGS and VAS versus $270 for VDHG, which is a difference of $123. On $1 million, that difference grows to around $1,230 per year. That matters as a portfolio grows, but the investments underneath each portfolio are still a much bigger driver of returns than this fee gap. Their distribution profiles also differ. Over the 5 years measured, VDHG distributed an annualized return component of roughly 4.31%, compared with around 3.24% for VGS and VAS. A larger distribution is not a free extra return. The ETF's price falls when the distribution is paid, but during the accumulation stage, it can mean more taxable income along the way, even if every distribution is reinvested. The exact outcome depends on your circumstances and the components of those distributions. The two-fund portfolio also provides more control. You can direct new contributions into whichever ETF is below its target instead of selling to rebalance. You can choose which parcels to sell and when, giving you more say over when capital gains are realized. And when you actually withdraw money, you can choose whether to sell VGS or VAS and potentially rebalance at the same time. With VDHG, Vanguard handles the rebalancing internally. When you sell one proportional slice of the whole portfolio. That is easier, but less flexible. And that's the trade-off, control versus fewer decisions. So which one is likely to suit you? VGS and VAS may suit you better if you want 100% shares with no bonds, you're comfortable with roughly half your portfolio in US companies and about 70% exposed to foreign currencies. You want lower fees and more control over contributions and withdrawals, and you're willing to check and rebalance two ETFs once or twice a year. Rebalancing two ETFs is not technically difficult. You can often direct new contributions into whichever one is underway. The harder part is behavioral. If VGS outperforms VAS for several years, will you still buy VAS? If markets fall sharply, will you continue following the plan? VDHG may suit you better if you want one ETF with automatic rebalancing. You want emerging markets and international small companies included. You prefer a mix of hedged and unhedged international exposure. You want a small defensive bond allocation, and you are comfortable paying for more simplicity. VDHG removes many opportunities to second guess the strategy. That can be valuable even for someone capable of managing two ETFs. The choice is therefore not simply whether you prefer one ticker or two. It is whether extra control improves your investing or creates more opportunities to interfere with it. Now, if you want more analysis like this, take a look at our ETFadviser newsletter, link below, where you can get access to our full Australian ETF research service, including the ETFadviser model portfolio, currently up 11.06% since June 2025, compared with 8.01% for the broader ASX. A comprehensive weekly ETF newsletter covering the latest Australian listed ETF opportunities, updates on global investment themes, areas like AI, robotics, cybersecurity, gold, and other sectors Australian investors often miss. Subscriber-only midweek videos and extra market commentary and ETF insights, trade alerts, and more. There's also a 28-day free trial, no credit card required, so you can see the research, follow the model portfolio, and decide whether it helps you make better ETF decisions before paying anything.